I was stunned. I was shocked last night because this guy, Javier Millet, he ran for president in Argentina. And let's just say, you want to talk about elections where the sort of so-called chosen party tends to win. It often happens in places like Latin America, right? The sort of banana republic-esque type places. Not saying that Argentina is that, but look, for years, like the Peronists have been controlling everything. Remember that the song? Don't cry for me, Argentina. The truth is I never left you. Evita. Great musical. Anyway, Evita Peron, her husband, Juan Peron, they were socialists. They basically kind of stole from the people. They lived very well, and it was at the people's expense. And this group of people from their party kind of stayed in power over the years, and they kind of decimated Argentina's economy. So that's where we begin this show today. A great nation with so many possibilities, a tremendous amount of natural resources, right? The wealth there that just exists because of what Argentina is. If they could just figure it out and have a decent government to enable the people to do what they know how to do, well, they'd be in great shape. But they've never had that, you see. For decades now, it's just been a lot of corruption, a lot of graft, and many social programs. I know a lot about this. In fact, my first job, for those of you that are not aware of this, was actually at Goldman Sachs, where we were trading specifically emerging markets, Latin American emerging markets, including Brazil, Venezuela, Mexico, and Argentina. Thank you very much. So Argentina got some restructuring efforts. It was actually led by a friend of mine, a guy named Bill Rhodes, who was the vice chair at Citi, and he was sort of the banker to the world. In fact, he wrote a book called Banker to the World. We're going to have to get Bill on the show one of these days. But anyway, Bill Rhodes went in there. He's much older now. And he restructured Argentina's economy in the 80s and thinking was, it's going to be much better. But it wasn't. It wasn't. Because you know what? You're only as good as your leadership. And even though they got a fresh start, they just couldn't make a go of it. And so this has happened over and over and over again. It's a mess. Like, I cannot tell you what a big mess it is. Inflation is out of control. In fact, one of my friends from Argentina, who now lives here in the U.S. and is so thankful because she does live in the U.S. and she loves this country. I love that she loves this country. Anyway, she said to me on Saturday, this place is worse than Venezuela. She said, Argentina is a disaster. And the dollar's worth a ton there, but Argentina's currency itself, it's a mess. It's been decimated. Inflation is awful, and the people are really struggling. And so, you know what? Power to the people. They said enough. And they elected this guy who said, you know what? I'm taking a chainsaw to this budget. I'm getting rid of all the bureaucrats. They elected a guy who, well, let's face it, any way you slice it, he'll be different. Let's watch. Javier Millet, now president of Argentina.
Turismo y deporte, afuera. Ministerio de Cultura, afuera.
So he's, again, I'll do the translation for those of you that are listening on Apple Podcasts. He's basically saying, I'm getting rid of them all. Afuera, afuera. And this is great. This is an interview where he's speaking with a journalist. He's calling all these government things, you know what? Estúpida. You understand? The política estúpida. Socialismo. No, it's cool. He's like, look, it's a total threat to our democracy. We're ranking 140th in the world. I mean, gosh, this guy makes sense, right? Like, that is, Argentina needs a total redo. Let's hope that we don't get there. I mean, we have the benefit, right, still of being the world's reserve currency if they don't mess that one up. And so we haven't gotten to the point that Argentina already is in. But Argentina is there because, what do you know? They spent more than they made. What do you think the United States of America is doing right now? $33 trillion in debt and still counting. That is not sustainable, ladies and gentlemen. And yet we're out there spending some more. I mean, this is really crazy. There's no sense of responsibility. I don't know what happened to the Tea Party. This is why Kevin McCarthy's out of a job, by the way, as he should be. Because you know what? You cannot continue on this trajectory and hope that you're going to remain enjoying the lifestyle that you have now. Look, I guess back during in the post-World War II era, maybe during World War II, Argentina was kind of the breadbasket to the world. And by the way, they were like Switzerland back then because everybody was immigrating like to Argentina, right? The bad guys from Germany, as well as Jews that wanted to immigrate. They found a home in Argentina. Argentina's like, okay, you have money, we'll take you. And so consequently, they wound up having a lot of wealth that came into the nation, and they started producing a lot of stuff for the war, right? They had to, they fed everybody and they were making stuff. And so they had every reason to be able to succeed in that they were really rooted in this capitalist economy. And then the socialistas, they come in, Evita Perón comes in with her husband. I mean, it was Juan Perón, but she kind of took over the deal. And it gave birth to a movement like we see in Venezuela with Chavismo, or like you see in Cuba, that cost the country dearly. And I think it's an important thing for us to watch right now, because I feel very strongly, I do, that if we are not careful here in the United States of America, we're going to very much wind up not dissimilar from other countries like Venezuela or like Argentina. Because every single time you try this, and by this I mean socialism, what do you wind up with? Misery. Because it just doesn't work. And yet we've got these crazy leftists out there that keep pushing this agenda, that try and push this division. I mean, I've been rereading Tocqueville's Democracy in America. I'm going to start quoting it for you guys because I just find it so inspiring to remember the greatness of this country, what Tocqueville was able to discern even back then. And one of the parts of the book gets into how so many societies fail because they divide, all in the interest of keeping power in one specific group, right? And that's exactly what you're seeing right now. What do you think these activists, Rashida Tlaib, the Squad, the rest of them, what do you think they're about? They're about dividing us. And that division has worked for the ruling class, so to speak, right? Because ultimately, no one does well in that kind of scenario, certainly not economically. And so Argentina gets it, and Argentina says, you know what, we're going with this guy. I don't care how many times he says the word mierda, which sounds better in Spanish than it does English, does it not? This is who we want. Here, watch him here. I'll turn him up a bit.
Pero ¿me podés definir zurdo de mierda que no
Todos
lo
los que,
entiendo?
digamos, los colectivistas, los que ponen, digamos, o sea, esa idea... A ver,
¿Por qué le pones de mierda, digamos?
Porque son una mierda. O sea,
vos mezclás-
no,
pero
pero,
eso-
es que
eso
si
es
pensás,
pero no, pero digo,
pero
eso
si
es
pensás distinto te
descalificador.
van a aniquilar. Ese es el punto. Es decir, vos al zurdo no le podés dar un milímetro, porque le das un milímetro y lo toma para destrozarte. Es decir, digamos, o sea, vos no podés negociar con el zurdo. No se negocia. No se negocia con esa mierda, no se negocia porque te van a llevar puesto. Si tienen un golpeador.
Okay, if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, I apologize. You got to come over to YouTube and join our live show because then you can see actually the translation. But he's basically saying like these crazy liberals, they're crazy. And they're going to actually, they have been ruining our country and they're going to continue to ruin our country. And so we need to do something about it. He's saying effectively they want to kill you. They want to ruin you. They want to actually just completely cut you off. And it's all in their interest to do so, right? They have their agenda. And this agenda is not in the interest of the Argentine people or the Argentine economy or in the interest of seeing Argentina succeed. he said, we're not only superior economically, we're superior morally to what they are trying to offer. We're better at everything. And then that triggers them. And since they can't beat us with their real arguments, they use taxpayer money to try and destroy us. And they're losing. I mean, this guy is just, wow. He makes Trump look like, a statesman. Actually, well, we can talk about Trump. We can talk about him. But wow. I mean, you saw the bit at the end. I think the word mierda came up against these mierda leftists. But it's wild. I mean, guys, this is, I'm telling you, a big deal. It's a big deal for Argentina. It's a big deal that he won. And that is the message that, by the way, Venezuela needs to hear, that Brazil needs to hear, and that right here in the United States of America, we need to hear loud and clear. Because this leftist movement that is okay with Jewish kids getting harassed on Harvard University's campus, and don't tell me otherwise. When you don't expel the kid who was harassing somebody else just crossing campus because they thought he was Jewish, and that kid that was doing the harassing is on Harvard's law review, and you got Claudine Gay somehow refusing to expel him? Whoa. I mean, look, the establishment here in America, these Ivy League institutions, these Democrats like Joe Biden and the rest of them, they actually, I think, are dangerous to the future of this country and everything that makes our country truly great. And, one day we're going to wake up and we're not going to have the chance to fix it. And then what do we do?